Frankie Beverly, a name that may not always dominate the headlines or appear in the tabloids, but in the world of R&B and soul, his presence is as sacred as gospel. As the frontman of Maze, Frankie Beverly crafted a sound so timeless that it became more than just music. It became a movement. His songs were not simply hits, they were experiences. They weren't just about joy or pain, they were joy and pain. But Frankie Beverly's story isn't just about smooth harmonies and feel-good live performances. It is also the story of a man who battled against the very machine of the music industry, an artist who rejected flash for authenticity, who refused to play the fame game, and who paid the price for it. His life was riddled with quiet controversies, battles with record labels, tensions with promoters, personal struggles, and the heavy burden of being a black artist in an era when crossover success often meant compromise. From the street corners of Philadelphia to sold-out stadiums where fans dressed in all white to honor him, Frankie Beverly's journey was never a straight line. It was filled with setbacks, betrayals, and near collapses. Yet through it all, he stood firm, becoming a symbol of perseverance, loyalty, and integrity in an industry that often devours its own. This is the story of Frankie Beverly, the quiet giant who built an empire of soul. Frankie Beverly was born Howard Beverly on December 6, 1946, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philly wasn't just any city, it was a music mecca, the home of gospel, doo-wop, and what would later be called the Philly soul sound. For a young black boy in the 1950s and 60s, the streets of Philly were alive with harmonies, barbershop quartets rehearsing on corners, church choirs shaking stained glass windows, and neighborhood block parties that doubled as talent shows. Raised in a working-class household, Frankie found escape in music. He first honed his voice in church, where gospel instilled in him a sense of soul and discipline. His biggest idols were Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, and Nat King Cole. Men who combined smoothness with fire. But even then, Frankie was different. He didn't just mimic voices. He searched for something that sounded like himself. In high school, Beverly formed his first group, the Blenders. They performed at community centers, small clubs, and anywhere that would have them. But Philadelphia in the 1960s was brimming with talent. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the Delphonics and the OJs were all sharpening their sound. Frankie was just another hungry kid in an oversaturated market. But unlike many peers chasing quick fame, Beverly was focused on creating music with authenticity. That stubbornness, both a gift and a curse, would define his career. By 1969, Frankie Beverly created a new band called Raw Soul. Their name reflected their sound, gritty, unpolished, and heartfelt. They gained some traction in Philly, but Beverly realized that breaking out of the city required something bold. So in the early 70s, Raw Soul packed up and moved across the country to Los Angeles, gambling everything for a chance at real success. This decision nearly broke the band. They faced eviction notices, rejection after rejection, and even hunger. But fate intervened in the most unexpected way. Frankie Beverly's unique voice caught the attention of Marvin Gaye, who had just redefined soul music with What's Going On. Gaye was so impressed that he invited Raw Soul to open for him on tour. It was Marvin Gaye himself who suggested the band change their name to Maze. He felt their music wasn't just raw anymore. It was a labyrinth of emotions, grooves, and messages. That cosign from Gaye was monumental, but it didn't come without controversy. Some insiders accused Frankie of riding Marvin's coattails, while others whispered that Marvin felt threatened by Beverly's ability to command a stage. But what no one could deny was that Maze had arrived. In 1977, Maze, featuring Frankie Beverly, released their self-titled debut album under Capitol Records. It was a slow burn, not a chart-topping blockbuster, but a record that quietly spread by word of mouth. Songs like Happy Feelings and While I'm Alone resonated deeply with audiences who craved real soul amidst the rise of disco and pop. But Maze's breakout moment came with the 1980 release of Joy and Pain. The track was more than a song, it was a philosophy, a reminder that life was a constant swing between highs and lows. It became the unofficial Black national anthem, sung at cookouts, weddings, funerals, and reunions. The paradox of celebrating both suffering and healing in one groove defined Frankie Beverly's genius. Yet Mays' success came with complications. Despite selling out arenas and building one of the most loyal fan bases in R&B history, they were largely ignored by mainstream institutions. The Grammys never crowned them. Pop radio rarely embraced them. Critics accused Frankie of being too safe, while record executives pushed him to chase crossover hits. Frankie resisted every time. He wasn't chasing Michael Jackson's glitter or Prince's theatrics. He wanted to keep Mays rooted in soul. That defiance earned him respect, but cost him mainstream superstardom. Behind the smooth ballads and electrifying live shows, Frankie Beverly was often at war with the industry. Capitol Records executives pressured him to modernize Mays' sound during the synth-heavy 80s, even suggesting he collaborate with younger, pop-oriented producers. Frankie refused. He clashed with label heads, earning a reputation for being difficult. But his refusal to compromise came at a cost. Mays' later albums received little promotion, stunting their commercial reach. There were also internal struggles. Band members came and went, sometimes leaving after bitter disputes over money and recognition. Fans noticed Frankie was often the sole face of Mays, leading to whispers that he overshadowed his bandmates. On a personal level, Frankie Beverly kept his private life shrouded in mystery, but rumors swirled about failed relationships, substance struggles, and health battles. In the 1990s, he quietly fought through throat and vocal issues, even performing while in pain, masking it all with his signature smile and white attire. Some accused him of overworking his band, chasing endless tours at the expense of their health. But perhaps the biggest controversy was the way the industry itself overlooked him. Despite decades of influence, Frankie Beverly and Mays never received the industry recognition they deserved. To this day, fans debate why Mays was left out of the Grammy spotlight, with some pointing to industry politics and others to Beverly's refusal to play the fame game. By the mid-1980s, Frankie Beverly and Mays had carved out something no other band had: a culture. Their shows weren't just concerts, they were rituals. Fans began dressing in all white, a tradition that turned into legendary annual celebrations known as the Mays White Parties. Songs like Before I Let Go became eternal. Decades later, Beyoncé would revive the track, introducing it to a new generation. But long before her version, Frankie Beverly's original had already cemented itself as the soundtrack of summer cookouts and wedding receptions. Mays concerts became a rite of passage in Black America, where 3 generations could dance to the same grooves. Frankie Beverly wasn't just a singer, he was a community builder. Frankie Beverly's legacy is a paradox. On one hand, he was denied the industry accolades that many of his peers enjoyed. On the other hand, he built something more powerful than awards, a living tradition. His music is eternal, embedded in the DNA of Black culture. You can walk into a family reunion, a club, or a wedding, and the moment Before I Let Go or Joy and Pain comes on, the room transforms. Strangers become family. The dance floor turns into church. That is Frankie Beverly's power. And while mainstream critics may have overlooked him, the artists who came after never did. From Beyoncé to Jay-Z, Alicia Keys to Mary J. Blige, generations of artists sampled, honored, and celebrated Frankie Beverly's blueprint. His refusal to compromise became his greatest gift to music. Today, Mays' tours still sell out. Fans still wear white in his honor. His story is proof that legacy isn't built on awards. It's built on impact, culture, and truth. Frankie Beverly may not have chased the spotlight, but in the world of real soul, he is the light.